Welcome to the third episode of the Mol Belgie Germany recaps from Reality TV Warriors. My name is Michael Holmstone, and joining me as always is a Canadian who, as a special treat, I am letting inspect dogs' genitals and nipples right now, Logan Saunders.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This was a very odd episode.
Hypnotists and a lot of dogs.
I know we say this a lot about Mol Belgie, and I don't know whether it's because Natalia's subtitles were slightly delayed because of Easter, obviously, which we knew about. So we had sort of auto-generated subtitles from Jack as well to help us with this episode. And it was just a little bit odd. It felt like a fever dream at some points. I'm mainly thinking of the hypnotism challenge, because that has really split the audience, I would say. Never have I seen a Mol Belgie challenge that has split the audience in terms of opinions like the hypnotism challenge has.
Have you ever been to a hypnotist show, Michael?
I was going to get into this. Hypnotism is utter horseshit. The fact that people actually believe that someone can put you in a trance and make you bark like a dog is nonsense. How about you?
We had a hypnotist for our high school for our super grad at the end of high school. So we had a hypnotist at about, the show started at about 2:30 in the morning. And then it was like the very last thing that they held at our high school at night, because that's where, I don't know if they still do this in a lot of places in North America or Europe for high schools, because I know ours kind of stopped doing it, I think a couple years after I graduated. So that'd be I graduated about 12 years ago now. But what a lot of high school used to do, or may still do, is after you do your grad ceremony and you have your banquet and your prom, you go back to your high school in the evening, and usually you have to raise quite a bit of money during the year for this. Then everybody is locked in at the high school from about 8 p.m. till about 5 a.m. and they usually have a bunch of different activities for you to do. Like we had fire dancers, and we had all these things set up in the gym, and then at the very end, the very last thing was a hypnotist from about 2:30 till about 4:30 in the morning. We had people in our grad class be hypnotized and doing really, really weird things on stage.
Right. We are getting a massive insight into Canada here, I think. So do you believe in hypnotism?
To a degree, I guess. It's like a pseudoscience, so it's kind of like that in those Victorian novels, like Trilby and stuff. So, you're going to get into a whole discussion about Svengali and things like that.
Yeah, I understand the whole people believing in mysticism generally thing, but hypnotism has always kind of felt a bit hokey to me. It just relies on people believing that there aren't plants in the audience, which there are, and that people are actually susceptible to being mind fucked, for want of a better term. Because it's manipulation, it's nothing more than that, I would say. But you have to be the right sort of person to believe it, which is, skipping slightly ahead, why I think those three people were picked. I think in the application process, they probably did psychological tests with them, and those three were the most likely of the remaining 8 to fall under the spell of a hypnotist, for want of a better term.
Yeah, to quote unquote buy into it.
Yeah, to be susceptible to it. Like Samina, on paper, you would say Samina obviously believes in hypnotism. That is not a shock. More surprised by Leonard than Noah, because Noah, as we found out in episode 1, does believe in all that sort of stuff as well, I think. One of his topics in the special Hulk challenge was something to do with sort of pseudosciences, I think.
Yeah, that's natural that they had to pick 3 very specific people for it.
Yeah, but I'm more surprised that they think that Leonard was going to be susceptible to it than anything, because he's my mole at the moment still. Spoilers for the end of the episode. And I think that may be the reason he was in there, because on paper it does not seem like the sort of thing he should have been picked for.
Since he's such a scientific guy, talking about
axolotls.
Oxalotls. Yeah.
Well, if you think back to this episode, Jasmien said, yeah, Leonard doesn't believe in any of that nonsense. And then he's the only one who, does end up falling foul of the nonsense.
Yeah, that part stuck out to me too. That he was. It's like, you'd expect out of all three, out of everybody in the cast, you'd expect him to be the least likely out of all 8 people to be unable to do that poem.
Yeah. So, previously, the candidates split up into classics, where they did their own version of carpool karaoke, and classical, where they tried to avoid the note diabolique whilst playing a Bach piece on piano. When they reunited, they had to transport wine down a hillside to varying degrees of success, before facing off in 2 cars to save themselves from a double execution. Both teams pushed the button, but Katrine, Jasmien, Annelotte, Lennart, and Samina saved themselves from execution, sending Kevin and Dami from the other car home. And we begin, as seems to be traditional now with the Mole, with a eulogy for the people who've gone. Not content with ending the last episode with it, we also have a little bit of eulogy here whilst they're driving to Munich. Annelotte says she felt a strong coolness from Kevin when he saw the other car had pushed the button.
Did they mention Demi once?
No, it was all about Kevin. Nobody suspected Dami at all. It was literally just Kevin, which is pretty much how we were feeling as well, to be fair.
Yeah, it's just funny because it's like there were two. Yeah, they were eulogizing, but I'm pretty sure there were 2 people executed and not just Kevin. It's like, oh yeah, Dammy too. Dammy was gone too. But poor Kevin, my God.
I've not got the numbers to hand, but I think Kevin was as many people's first suspects as Noah was as many people's last suspects. A lot of people on First Suspicions this week did very well because Noah was their bottom suspect or 10th suspect and Jens was their last one.
Yeah, it's a bummer that Noah had to go this week because he was a freebie.
He was essentially just a free pass for everyone to get through to the next round because nobody suspected him. Katrine says she felt very sorry for both. Jasmien said they were all shocked. Both she and Lennart had him as their number 1 suspect. And as I said, they are driving to Munich and they arrive when it is late. There is a note waiting for them from Gilles saying that episode 3 is an important stop in the journey as someone will be joining the group. And immediately, before you see anything else in this episode, you go, oh my god, they're going to bring back one of the intruders, aren't they? They're going to bring back Jens and give him a proper chance. Nope. It's much more fun than that. So the opening quote this week is an Einstein quote. It's Es gibt nichts Schöneres als das Mysteriöse. There is nothing more beautiful than the mysterious.
Oh, I thought you were just casting a spell.
No, I'm not trying to hypnotize you through my voice at the moment. That will come. So it's day 7 in Munich, and they are playing ping pong outside. Philip is rocking out to music on his headphones. He's listening to the song Breeze Blocks by Alt J.
Olche? Olche from Vidum, Georgia?
Not Olche Goulson, Alt J.
Oh, that's such a disappointment. I totally thought it was Olche.
I would have loved it if he was rocking out like that to the dulcet tones of Olche running a season. To Olche saying, I love money. To a mixtape of all of Olche's best put-downs for people.
It's just all auto-tuned or something?
No, it's a hypnosis tape. It's Olche makes you lose weight. She just sits there in front of the microphone and goes, stop being such a fatty. Put that food down. Step away from the cooker. So at breakfast, they discuss who could actually be joining them, and for some reason, Philip thinks that it's former Belgian footballer Jean-Marie Pfaff.
That's so random.
It's so random. I feel like Philip has probably discussed his obsession with Jean-Marie Pfaff before, but we just haven't seen any of it. And I mean, nothing is as random as Willie Summers was last season, let's be honest.
I was about to say, like, you should have just said that. If only he was on the Grease season. It's like, man, I really wish that I think we're going to do something with Willie Summers. And everyone just laughs at him. Oh, I was right all along.
Maybe Willie Summers should just be a guest on every season. They just bring Willie Summers every time just to make sure.
He can't be doing much during COVID. He can't hold any concerts.
Maybe he's doing live streams.
Live streams, yeah.
Maybe he's going live on Instagram every week and doing requests of people.
I'm sure he is.
All of his greatest hits, like that one, you know the one that goes, that one. I'm sure he does that one each week.
With Vidum Czechia, they still had teams staying in hotels. Or actually, when was Vidum and the Mole filmed? Were they both filmed relatively the same time?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same time. I think Belgium, I have been trying to find out the filming dates for this. Episode 3 definitely filmed sometime in the first week of October, because that is when the hypnotist was in Germany. He has posted a few pictures of him at Sleeping Beauty Castle and things. So he was in Bavaria roughly between about the 1st and the 8th of October. We know for a fact that the season started in September, so this must have filmed maybe about 2nd, 3rd of October, I'd guess.
Okay, because I noticed the differences is that with Vidum Czechia, they still had teams staying in hotels and not having to cook their own meals. And here it's like the contestants in the mole for this season all have like their own Airbnb for these few days because they're cooking the meals themselves. There's no one else really around. It's like they just get to live in a house somewhere in Munich.
I think it's more the attitude of the show itself as well, because Belgium does have a history of giving them a house of some description and letting them cook for themselves and clean for themselves and enjoy each other's companies rather than segregating them into hotel rooms or anything like that, or having them rely on other people. It adds to sort of the adventure of the show and it feeling like a holiday for these people with an added bit of sabotage in the challenges and things.
Yeah, they do that each season where they get their own little house sometimes. I'm thinking back to Argentina where they started doing that. They did it at the start and end of the season. But here with the Germany season here and during COVID comes a bit more blatant when it's been like this every episode.
Yeah, the other element of this is the fact that Munich is the first place they've been to this season where I have been to. So I have a little bit of, not local knowledge because I was only there for a few days, but they wouldn't have been able to get a hotel in the outskirts of Munich, more than likely. It would have been either put them in a hotel in the middle of Munich and risk them coming into contact with a lot of people because Munich's a very busy city, or give them a house on the outskirts, rent an Airbnb or whatever. So from a COVID point of view, it makes sense, but it's not like they've really changed anything for COVID.
It's just that Munich would be a lot tougher. Oh, even like to enforce COVID protocols, Munich would be one of the tougher places to do it.
Of the places we know they go, Munich is definitely up there in terms of the toughest places for them to actually make COVID proof. So it makes a lot of sense for them to do a house on the outskirts of Munich. I don't know how far outside of Munich they were. I don't think they were very far outside of Munich, but they would have had a house, an Airbnb or something. Because it makes sense from their point of view as well, because it means that it just fosters a good atmosphere in the group. If they're all living with each other and actually enjoying each other's company outside of the challenges rather than just sitting in a hotel room with one or two other people.
Although Philip would have been able to listen to his music a bit more in peace, though, if they were at a hotel.
Yeah.
And not have everyone be like, what are you listening to? Why are you listening to a contestant from Vidum, Georgia? That's so weird, Philip.
Why are you listening to Olche's self-help tapes?
You're going to buy yourself some stilettos? Is that what you're doing? You're going to buy some stilettos from eBay?
Are you going to give someone a makeover? Stop them looking so frumpy.
Why are you naming your granddaughter Stine?
So Gilles rings them on their mobile that they've been provided with and divides them, saying Samina, Noah, and Lennart are summoned to the Rationale Theatre in Munich, and the other group will have to choose 2 people who enjoy people watching and 3 who want to have a walk in the park. And he doesn't even get to say goodbye to them because Samina hangs up on him mid-goodbye.
Yep, see it.
Got all the information. Bye-bye, Gilles. So Jasmien and Katrine quickly volunteer to people watch, leaving Philip, Sven, and Annelotte to have their walk in the park. At the Rationale Theatre, Samina, Noah, and Lennart must pick a mini challenge each. The first is eat this plate as soon as possible. The second is keep your eyes open as long as possible. And the third is plank as long as possible between 2 tables with 1 leg in the air. They volunteer Samina to eat, Noah to keep his eyes open, and Lennart to plank.
I don't think I'd want to do any of those 3 challenges.
Now, which one would you have picked out of those 3?
If I had to pick one, I guess I would probably choose the planking one. I know I would be terrible at keeping my eyes open. Too much time spent on computers over the past 20 years means I'd probably blink very quickly, I think.
Yeah, I think if you think about this challenge as a game theory one, if you're just given mini challenges, you're probably going to end up having to try and beat them. So you pick the one that you're going to be worst at, but you can redo. So I would say that is easily keep your eyes open or plank. I would not volunteer to eat half a lemon at all, because that would be unpleasant. Even if you were convinced that it tasted like peaches in the end.
Yeah, you'd be making a sour face for quite a while.
Yeah, I think I probably would lean towards planking, but keeping your eyes open, if you work out that the challenge is going to be beat your own time, keeping your eyes open is probably the easiest to do that with because you've got the most control of the three in that one. So Samina has to eat half the lemon, and she does it in 2 minutes and 2. Noah has to keep his eyes open for as long as possible without blinking, and that's 2 minutes and 8, he sets.
I think I would have a tough time beyond 20 seconds. So I was very, very shocked to see that time. I was thinking, how is that possible?
Yeah, 2 minutes and 8 is a very good time as a base time. He does end up beating it, but it's genuinely impressive he managed to keep his eyes open for over 2 minutes.
Yeah, I could not. I could never do that.
There was a brilliant task on. I know I keep mentioning this show because you really should watch it. There was a brilliant task on Taskmaster a couple of years ago, which was don't blink, your time starts in 10 seconds. So the various ways of people not blinking. And I think the winner ended up doing it for about 40 minutes. It was something ridiculous because I know it was redone on the one of the Scandinavian ones, and someone lasted like an hour and a half without blinking.
How? Your dice would dry out, wouldn't they?
Just being competitive, I think. Like it's genuinely impressive efforts, but I'm not sure I could keep my eyes open for more than 2 minutes. So kudos to Noah for that if he somehow ends up listening to this. Obviously, we care about him less because he's not in the final three, so we'd never have a chance to talk about him.
Yeah, this will be it. This episode's going to be it for Noah mentions.
After this, we will never mention Noah again. At least till they eulogize him at the start of the next episode.
Did any of you suspect him? Nah. None of us suspected him. Okay.
So yeah, Noah has to keep his eyes open, and he lasts 2 minutes and 8, and then Lennart has to plank between two posts whilst keeping his leg in the air. He really suffers, but ends up lasting 2 minutes 53. And they are joined by a hypnotist called Patrick Picard. He's hypnotizing them to be better, and if they beat their individual times, they'll earn €250 each.
You think there'd be a financial incentive for that guy too? If he can get them to do better than they did before, then he should earn some money as well.
I suspect he was probably getting paid. Given that this filmed in COVID times, he was probably glad of any money he got. Maybe he could have put it towards buying some real glasses.
I really wish he would have added an extra letter onto his last name so he could be Patrick Picard.
Just bring out Patrick Stewart, just in case.
Yeah. I was going to do an impression. I'm like, actually, I haven't seen any Star Trek, so I don't even know what to say as an impression.
Now, Saunders, you need to do a Patrick Stewart impression now.
I can't. Yeah, I can't do it. I'd only be able to like think of, say, Mr. X from X-Men.
You mean Professor Xavier?
Yeah, Mr. X is Homer Simpson's mysterious character that exposes secrets. Yeah, I meant Professor X.
It's getting close to Mr. F from Arrested Development.
Mr. F.
So Samina is hypnotized to believe that lemons taste like peaches, and she completes her challenge in 50 seconds. Noah is hypnotized to just look at a point indefinitely, and he beats his time with 2 minutes and 18. And Lennart is hypnotized to believe he's completely made of steel. He's wearing Adidas trainers, and he gives up after 2.5 minutes and earns no money. They are then hypnotized again. He makes their bodies feel heavier every time he touches them, and they curl up on the floor, and he gets them to slap their foreheads, pretending there is a mosquito there. The thing I wanted to mention with this challenge is the fact that there was a very short-lived game show over here called You're Back in the Room, which was pretty much this idea. It was, as a group, you have to complete challenges, but you've been hypnotized to do a party quirk from Whose Line Is It Anyway, basically. And it's just the most ludicrous idea for a game show ever, I think. Purely because you have such a limited contestant pool of people who are actually susceptible to hypnosis, which I'm pretty sure I'm not one of. I'm fully aware by saying this, it will come back to bite me eventually. But I just got flashbacks with this. I love the hypnotism challenge. I'm definitely on the this is hilarious side rather than this is the worst challenge they've ever done, because as Bindle said to me yesterday, do these people not remember there was literally a challenge in Argentina of sniff everyone else's sweaty clothes and work out whose it is? This is by no means the worst challenge that Belgian Mol have ever done. It's just, I would say, the most divisive challenge that Belgian Mol have ever done. There are a lot of people who really like it, like me. I like it because it is utterly ridiculous and hilarious, and I can mock it mercilessly. There's a lot of people who think that it's a very stupid challenge and pointless.
Probably because I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say there may or may not be some religious beliefs that that come with that. Because usually more hardcore religious people are going to be very anti-hypnotism.
I don't know whether it's that. I think it's just there's a lot of people who think that hypnotism is stupid, whether they're religious or not. There's a lot of people who go, well, how can you even be susceptible to that? How can you even be susceptible to being mindfucked like that? Having said that, take a look at like the past 4 or 5 years in world politics and all that sort of stuff, and you go, yeah, people believe anything. But for me, I've never believed that hypnotism works. I think it is a con more than anything.
But yeah, I can see why there were enough people online saying, "Oh, this is a really dumb challenge."
I mean, it's a stupid challenge, but it's good for us to talk about. We've spent far longer on this than I expected us to, I'll be honest.
I couldn't imagine trying to eat half a lemon in 50 seconds. I don't even want to imagine how my mouth would feel after that.
Yeah. So, Philip, Annelotte, and Sven head to the Olympia Park. Been there. There are 10 dogs waiting for them. They have to walk the dogs, and there are 2 mini challenges along the way, each worth €1,000, and they have to return to the start point within an hour. I think it's fair to say that Sven is not a big animal lover.
No. He did not seem comfortable in that challenge.
In 3 episodes, we've really come up against a lot of things that Sven is not comfortable with. Physical contact, animals. He just really does not like dogs.
It's like anything that involves having a human heart is not up Sven's alley. Any sort of like emotional connection to anything is just not his will forte.
So Sven is the least comfortable with dogs, but he doesn't want to walk around the park for an hour with a small dog dressed in pink. One of Philip's then makes a break for her, even before the time has properly started. Katrine and Jasmien head to the fun fair nearby. They have to match the dogs to their owners for €100 per owner. One of the dogs does not have an owner, and if they identify that dog, then they will earn all €1,000. And that means that they need detailed descriptions of the dogs from the other 3. I love this idea. I love it even more because I've done a little bit of research, given that I've been to the Olympia Park. I do love an Olympic stadium whenever I go to a city, I think, as we have previously discussed. That fun fair was actually put on for Oktoberfest. That fun fair is not normally there. So that really dates when they filmed this, and also explains why there was a group of people later in the episode dressed in lederhosen and dirndls.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, this entire fun fair just rolled into Munich for Oktoberfest by the look of things, including the Ferris wheel, including everything like that.
It didn't get cancelled during COVID. I'm very surprised.
Because there's a lot of like stadia there, obviously, given that it's the Olympic Park. They've just got rid of the velodrome from the 1972 Olympics to replace it with another like big concert venue thing. I think the swimming pool's still there as well, or it was when I went there. But yeah, they kind of took over the plaza-y area between the stadia to put a fun fair there just for Oktoberfest. So Jasmien ends up just asking Philip to pass on Annelotte as he can't communicate with her. And as I said, Katrine does stop a group dressed in lederhosen and dirndls to see if they actually own dogs. Nope, they're just from Bavaria. And after 15 minutes, they do find the first owner, which is the one wearing a red tie. And they find the Adidas owner shortly after. In their first mini-challenge, the dog walkers have to match the right name to the right dog. If they succeed, they will earn €100 per dog. And it ends up with them just shouting random names to dogs and seeing if anything reacts.
They had the worst strategy trying to figure out which dog was who. Because was it Annelotte? Annelotte's idea was to have a cookie and said, okay, I'm going to call one of the names and I'm going to have this cookie out. But all the dogs went towards the cookie because it's a cookie.
Well, yeah.
And they said, okay, we're going to throw the stick, then call one of the dogs' names to go get it. And I'm thinking, I just feel like these are 2 terrible strategies. If you throw a stick for a ball, every dog is going to want to chase it.
Also, I've just googled whether there is a religious objection to hypnosis, just out of interest because I'd never heard that theory before. It seems in most major religions there isn't. Maybe sort of in your hardcore bits of America, but really not in most of the world by the look of things.
Oh, That's very interesting.
In fact, there's an article I've just found that says that Roman Catholics, the Anglican Church, and Lutherans actively support and utilise hypnosis in helping cure ills.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, neither do I.
I learned something about hypnosis today.
Yeah. I just thought it was a really interesting theory because I sort of saw where you were going with it and thought, that holds water, but I've never actually heard that theory before.
Well, it held 0 water. It's an empty bucket.
It held absolutely 0 water.
It's dry. It's like a drought.
How would you have dealt with the matching the dog names task?
Well, I guess I would try to match it based on appearance and see if I could feel out the dogs' names that way. I wouldn't have it in one big group of 10. I'd probably want to divide up, say, 2 or 3 dogs and just try to keep calling the one dog's name to see if their tail starts wagging or if there's a head tilt or some sort of acknowledgement. I certainly wouldn't be like, oh, here's a cookie for Isidoor. Isidoor, do you want this cookie? Oh, you're all named Isidoor all of a sudden.
Katrine and Yasmin find Germany's answer to Elle Woods and take a photo.
Yeah, I wrote that too. I'm like, what's Elle Woods doing in Munich?
She is such a stereotype. I know the dog was described as Legally Blonde anyway, and I think it is actually the sort of dog she has in the film Legally Blonde.
It is, yes.
But yeah, they couldn't have made it any more stereotypical than going, you need to compare her to Legally Blonde.
Yeah, and there's a woman in an actual pink suit. Is she a lawyer? She could be maybe she just wore that pink suit as a joke.
Interestingly, there was a couple of bits around this area of the episode where the camera had dirt on it, which I have never seen on Belgian Mol in 6 seasons.
Maybe the camera operator fell?
Yeah, I don't know. There was like black spots coming up at some points, and I'm slightly worried that that may be a hint of some description.
Or maybe it was like very lightly raining?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But it was only in a couple of specific spots, and it happened 2-3 times during this scene of the episode.
Because it wasn't like it was a perfect sunny day or anything. Could be a day where there was a little bit of light rain.
No, it was October in Munich. It's not going to be glorious sunshine. So they find the 4th owner on the flying chairs. The 5th one is dressed as James Bond. The 6th is on the Dodgems, and the 7th at the shooting gallery, who has an adorable dog, because that was the big kind of collie-like dog.
I like how there was just the one guy casually on the merry-go-round.
Just so lonely.
By himself, yeah.
No one wants to play with him.
Yeah, he was just on that carousel by himself.
So the second mini challenge for the dog walkers is to weigh all of the dogs and divide it by the number of bitches. Sven is good with maths and gets 112.5 kilos, which is within the acceptable range. As a special treat for working out the math in such a good fashion, he then has to examine whether the dogs are male or female.
A lot of dogs get violated on this part.
Yeah, this should have come with some sort of warning, I think.
Yeah, this is weird. This was weirder than the hypnotism. This is probably the weirdest scene in all of the Mol Belgie, and that is saying something.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think even though I really don't understand hypnotism, I think the scene of Sven examining animal genitals is probably weirder than that.
And the fact that the oldest person in the cast is the one who's the most hands-on with this does not make this go any better.
No, and the fact that they still end up misgendering one of the dogs.
Granted, it was the one that was Elle Woods' dog.
It was, but they still, after all that, end up being completely wrong and wasting both their time and €1,000 for the opportunity for Sven to examine dog genitals. That's what it boils down to. If they'd actually earned the €1,000 out of this, it may have been worth it in the end, but I don't think it was. So they count that there are 7 bitches in the group, which would make 16.07 the correct number. Annelotte thinks that there were 6 and is right, so they earn absolutely nothing from the sub-challenge. When they return to Gilles with 2 minutes left, all 7 photos are correct, so those 7 come and collect their dogs straight away. The other 3 dogs are left without owners, but one of them doesn't have an owner at all and can earn them the remaining €300 that they missed. Using a clue from Gilles, which is think about the Olympics, they identify that one as the Dachshund, called Isidoor, as the Dash Hunt was the mascot of the games, so earn €1,000 of a possible 1,000 for the owners and 100 of a possible 2,000 for the dog walkers.
So it was Yasmin who got credit for remembering the painting, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so Yasmin and Katrine earned a lot of money in this challenge.
They really did.
They had a perfect run.
Yeah, especially compared to the other three who did not do so well.
They got 1 out of 20. €2,000 up for grabs. They only got one name tag right.
They got 5% of the possible winnings for their sub-challenges.
Yeah, it really dropped down Katrine and Yasmin in my suspect list. I'm thinking they did really, really well on that challenge. Way better than a regular contestant probably would have.
Yeah, but then they do end up, working that back out in the last challenge of the episode, shall we say.
That's true.
So Gilles promised them a new friend, and Isidoor will be coming with them for the rest of the trip.
I like how everyone's just expecting some sort of really controversial twist, and it's like, no, you just get to have a you just get to have a pet dog. You get to have your own little mascot for the season.
You're getting a Dash Hunt.
I gotta say, considering even during filming, they already would have been about about 7 months into the pandemic. And I think a season that's filmed 7 months into the pandemic deserves to have a dog to travel around with the teams. I think that's just bound to lift everyone's spirits up.
Here is my absolute delight of the week, because I've done a little bit of research on Isidoor, obviously, and me. Number one, Isidoor is a 7-year-old Dash Hunt who was living with a member of the production. He didn't have an owner before the actors died. After the season, they gave the contestants the option of either adopting him or letting him get adopted by someone else. One of the contestants did choose to adopt him. So one of the contestants does now own Isidoor.
Do we know who?
Annelotte.
Oh.
Which makes sense given what we saw in this episode, because she definitely had the best bond with him. The fact that Isidoor was owned by one of the members of the production team beforehand kind of negates Samina's claim at the end of this episode that maybe Annelotte owned the dog already.
Yeah.
Which was a very interesting theory, and actually had I not heard that, I would have maybe put a bit of stock into it. The great bit about this, though, is the fact that Play 4 have really ramped it up. They are treating him like a proper candidate. He has got a bio on the website, I believe, hence the fact that we know he's 7. I would not be surprised if in the previously section, you know how they highlight everyone's jobs and stuff. I would not be surprised if we then see Isidoor come up in that next week, at least, as a one-episode joke. Because this seems to be the sort of vibe of the season they're going for. They're going 3 episodes in. I would say that they are going to try and keep this season very lighthearted, mainly because of the pandemic and the fact that it's really dragged everyone down.
And you have to film in Germany in October.
There are far worse countries to film in than Germany, I would say. Germans are very nice.
Yeah, but I'm talking about weather-wise. Like, they're not going to be able to hang out at the beach or anything. You're not going to see lots of sunshine.
It's not particularly exotic, but me and Bindles were talking about this for the year as a whole. Because of the pandemic, obviously, the travel has been restricted for mole seasons this year, and there's been 3 seasons so far this year. Obviously, we had Czechia for Dutch mole. Obviously, we've got Germany for Belgian mole. And Finnish mole is currently airing in Latvia. And to the best of Bindle's knowledge, this is the first year in mole history where more than one season has filmed, and all of the seasons that filmed have filmed in brand new places that have never been visited by another season.
That's very interesting. Thinking, how can you stretch 12 episodes in Latvia, or 10, or I guess 9 episodes in Latvia?
Dutch mole has done far worse with far smaller countries.
Well, I guess what they had El Salvador as a location once.
El Salvador and Nicaragua were both great. Dominican Republic is very small. Colombia, they didn't do an awful lot of travel. China, they didn't do an awful lot of travel. China was 2 cities.
Which is kind of crazy with how massive China is.
I bet they travel more in Latvia than they did in the Dutch China season. So, the other 5 are brought to the theatre for the culmination of the hypnotism task. They have to guess how many of Lennart, Noah and Samina will be able to break their hypnosis when there is money on the line at the end of the show to earn a €1,000 bonus. Annelotte thinks that Lennart is too level-headed. Samina believes in this sort of bullshit, and Noah does too.
I like how they just openly said, oh, it's like, yeah, they buying that bullshit. They're going to do it.
Yeah, like Samina was reading about chakras, and Noah believes in the paranormal, so yeah, those two are going to buy into this. Let's just go for two people are going to break it. So in the theatre, the three are asked whether to drink the pink or the blue drink. If they choose to drink from the blue glass, to earn €250, they have to break free of the hypnosis and write down the poem that Patrick reads out to them, word for word.
I think Patrick's a fan of the Matrix. The fact that there's a blue drink and a red drink.
They were definitely going for a Matrix vibe with this, weren't they?
Yeah. You drink one, you stay in this hypnosis state, and you see how far the rabbit hole really goes, and the red drink brings you back to reality right away. And you're just a lousy contestant on a game show.
If they'd just done the hypnotism challenge, I bet they would have believed that Keanu Reeves was going to be their guest for the episode.
Whoa. Everyone, try to write down the poem I'm about to read out to you.
So the word blue will make them sleepy and stop writing. When he says it, all three of them keep writing initially. Samina and Noah complete their poems, but Lennart doesn't. And that wins them €500 for the hypnosis task, plus €500 for the ending, plus €1,000 for the guess, meaning a total of €2,000 of a possible 2.5 for the challenge. The only person who lost money in this challenge, can I point out, was Lennart.
And I hear the blue drink, this wasn't aired, but Patrick said the blue drink makes them tip very generously at the end of the show.
And the red drink weirdly tastes of peaches, or is it lemon?
Most likely peach flavor.
So those three are then introduced to Isidoor, and Samina is immediately smitten. Gilles tells them that he's not going to search for the mole, but he could be useful, and advises them to teach him how to push the red button that he also gives them.
I can't imagine what they're thinking for the next few days. Why do we need to teach a dog how to press this red button? What's going to be happening to us?
I genuinely cannot wait for the inevitable final challenge of the season where Gilles just gives them the instruction. You've got 10 minutes to get Isidoor to press that button to win €5,000 for the pot.
It's just Sven shouting at the dog. Press it! Press it! Press it, Isidoor! Press it! Press it!
I don't even understand how the mole would sabotage Isidoor pressing the button. Short of the mole training Isidoor badly, I don't understand how the mole can have any input in Isidoor pushing that button or not.
Kind of like how Venom has a treasure. Now they have to pick essentially a trainer for Isidoor.
And they have to switch it after 2 days just in case.
Yeah. It never has a steady owner.
And the trainer can take money out of the pot. So yeah, even Sven is smitten. He's allergic to cats and dogs, but finds Isidoor cute. They volunteer Annelotte to be Isidoor's trainer. And she's skeptical of Sven and Philip and says she has to take control of the dog walking challenge because otherwise it would have been even more of a mess. Katrine says she took the opportunity to keep an eye on Jasmien in the challenge, and Sven thinks that it was suspicious that the UPS owner wasn't found in the park. He's also confused by the general oeuvre of the hypnotist, especially the fact that he only had one leg on his glasses. So they wake up on day 8 in Munich. Isidoor gets a lot of attention, and Annelotte and Philip begin to train him. They drive to a paper factory an hour outside of Munich in Gemund am Tegensee for the next challenge. So they will be laying dominoes, and how much they can earn will be determined entirely by how much they can build. The mole split them into pairs the previous evening for this challenge. There are 3 stages to the domino runs, €250, €500 and €750, and they can also earn an extra €1,000 per stage with blocks that a 3D printer will create for them. The first pair is Lennis and Annelotte. Each pair can either choose to have the €1,000 block printed, or 2 pasvrage, which will cost the group €1,000 if they're printed. How would you have played this?
I probably would have just gone for the money.
Yeah, I have discussed at length the price that you should be willing to pay for advances in this game. I don't think €500 per pasvrage is an acceptable amount to actually spend. I think you're probably looking at €250 per pasvrage to make it acceptable for me.
Yeah, because it's just one for each person, right? You're deducting 10% from the pot for each person to get one pasvrage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hefty price.
I think you're spending a bit too much if you spend €1,000 per.
Just to get one for yourself.
Yeah.
I should also note, as of the end of the previous pair of challenges, the pot is higher than Vidum Czechia.
Yeah, and by quite a margin.
Yeah, by about €2,000, and we're only halfway into episode 3.
I think by the end of this episode, the pot is still higher than it got to in Vidum Czechia at any point.
Yeah.
It only actually topped €10,000 once. So Sven and Noah are second, and Sven agrees with me that one pasvrage for €1,000 is really not enough. Samina and Philip are third, and Samina says she's going for cash, and then Katrine and Jasmien are last. Only 3 pairs will actually get their items printed. Which pair doesn't is up to the team. They've got 90 minutes to complete their domino run for a potential prize of €4,500. 2 things on the same point here. One, this is one of the most confusing episodes ever to actually keep a track of how much money they can earn in terms of Belgium. It's really difficult at times because of how many sub-challenges there are to pretty much every challenge in this episode. But 2, I really appreciate them keeping the maximum amount to a nice, even amount. It's been pretty much €10,000 per episode, all 3 episodes, I think, so far. And it's really pleasant for me to not have to work out X 1,141 or whatever it was when Renaissance came along with a stupid challenge. The one where they could have actually ended up with a pot including 50 centimes. So yeah, it's really pleasant to see €40,000 as the maximum for the season so far by the end of this episode.
Yeah, the Renaissance one that messed everything up was when they had to carry those stone blocks, right?
Yeah, it was. But yeah, I'm a simple man with simple pleasures, and I really appreciate them not making me say a stupid amount of money at the end of this episode and just saying out of 40,000. That's a nice level amount. I can live with that.
What's funny is when they're all arguing over who took the pasvrage or not, that Annelotte said, "I swear on Izzy that we picked the money." And Philip's like, "Oh, on Izzy," and everyone's just like, "Oh, Annelotte really didn't go for pasvrage. It's the most sacred swear of all."
You know how we've been having trouble telling Annelotte and Jasmien apart?
Whoever has the dog attached to their hip is Annelotte.
A, it's really helpful having the dog there because, as you said, we can just tell that it's Annelotte if she's got the dog on her. But B, Jasmien is really, really giving me early reboot Belgian Mol mid-season female boot vibes.
She's very confrontational too. She's a lot more confrontational than Annelotte.
Yeah, I'm mainly thinking of Isabel and Marcena when I say these things, but I'm getting a lot of like those vibes from Jasmien right now, especially in this episode.
Yeah, I could see that.
So Philip says he wants him and Samina to be one of the 3 pairs. He had a strong chance of going home last episode, and Jasmien replies saying that it's not their fault that he's slow at taking tests. This is what I mean about the whole Isabel and Marcena vibe that I'm getting from her.
It's not our fault you suck at this game.
I could easily imagine Isa turning around to Bruno in Argentina and going, "Well, it's not my fault you're slow." Everyone says that they chose money. Katrine suspects that Sven and Noah went for pasvrage. And Philip and Jasmien don't trust each other after the ending of last episode and them trying to dupe each other in the bunker. Who do you think the other team who took pasvrage was?
I don't know. Everyone was so convincing.
I think it was Lennart and Annelotte from the vibe that I got, because I was quickly sort of whizzing through the episode again when Natalia uploaded it with her subs today just to get all of the Gilles intros and stuff.
Yeah, I kept going through like, they never did say who was the other duo, right?
I think we will find out in the reunion. But I got the vibe out of the other pairs that it was probably Lennart and Annelotte who took the pasvrage.
I don't know. Annelotte swore on Izzy.
Yeah, but I mean, we can be pretty confident that Sven didn't because he said one pasvrage isn't enough for €500. So he's thinking in a Bart way of, I want an advantage, but I'm not going to spend that much money for it. And Samina said specifically she's going for cash. And she was like, Philip, you're not going to change my mind on this. We're going for cash.
I like how Philip says that in the cartoon. He's like, I'm so in so much pain. I really wanted to screw you guys over, but Samina convinced me not to.
Yeah. It's like, way to get some trust.
Yeah. Gain some trust by telling everyone you lied.
So they vote for one pair to enter. Jasmien and Katrine choose Lennart and Annelotte. Philip and Samina choose Sven and Noah. Annelotte and Lennart choose Samina and Philip. And Sven and Noah choose Philip and Samina. So they are sent to the first challenge. And they have 10 minutes to earn the password for their USB. Philip has to throw 10 paper balls into a basketball net on Samina's head. He fails miserably. They swap, and Samina gets the first one in. And when the time runs out, they only have 7 in, so they get no block and no reward. However, when they're doing this challenge, Jasmien also kicks some blocks over to the group, nearly knocking the entire run out, which is a recurring theme. Jasmien and Katrine are sent to challenge number 2. They've got 5 definitions and have to match them to the common German phrases that are also used in Flemish to earn their password. Philip, being a clumsy oaf, knocks over most of the part between 250 and 500 euros, and Samina does the same between 500 and 750. Philip then stumbles with 1 block and nearly knocks the entire thing over, and Jasmien and Katrine get all 5 correct and earn their reward using the word sabotage. And they printed themselves 2 pasvragen, so cost the group €1,000.
What a fitting password.
Yeah, do you reckon that was deliberate?
It could have been.
Because we only saw 1 password, it was disappointing, really. But I would have been very interested to see whether they actually did tip them off with sabotage or teamwork or something.
Selfish. How dare you?
Your password is, what a bitch. So Lennart and Annelotte are sent to the final challenge. One of them has to instruct the other to make an origami dog without being able to see each other. Samina holds Isidoor, who nudges a domino with his nose, and although it's very irritating for the team, it's also very cute. I'm not a huge fan of Dachshunds, but that was quite adorable. With just over 10 minutes left, they have got the entire €250 stage done. Annelotte goes wrong on the folding without Lennart obviously being able to notice, and Philip slips and ruins all of the €500, all of the €250, and the path at the start with just 5 minutes left.
Yeah, half the people are like, we can't rebuild this in 5 minutes. There's no way.
I think at that point you do just do what Sven did and just go, oh, I can't be asked anymore. I'm not going to rebuild this in 5 minutes.
Yeah, if you spent 85 minutes building it, or close to it, and then it's like, oh, now you have 5 minutes to recreate what it took you 85 minutes to do, it's like, no.
I do kind of like the idea that they're going to have to do the entire rest of the season with somebody carrying Isidoor, though. Isidoor's just going to be kind of a canine roadblock for every challenge for them.
Except for when they have to catch rats or something in the ground, then it's like, oh, suddenly Isidoor's very useful.
Except when it's the challenge to hit a button.
Yeah, then it's just going to run away. It hates the color red.
So Annelotte and Lennart don't get their password and come back empty-handed. The time runs out, and they have absolutely no domino run whatsoever, which Gilles teases them about, earning them minus €1,000 of 4.5 for the challenge, 2,100 of 10,000 for the episode, and 10,600 of 40,000 for the season so far.
Gilles was brutal. He just comes back and says, I would stick with your current hobbies. What a battlefield this is.
The main downside, obviously, of it being a season under COVID conditions is the fact that Gilles doesn't get as much chance to interact with them and be, let's be honest, a bit of a dick to people. Because we are on record as loving the Gilles da Costa dick moments on this podcast. And this is a brilliant one where he just comes back in and goes, well, stick to your normal hobbies, guys, because you cannot build domino runs. And Gilles also reveals to them that 2 pairs chose golden dominoes.
Way to create distrust in the group, Gilles.
Yeah, because he knows that they're going to read between the lines and go, well, if 2 pairs chose golden dominoes, 2 pairs didn't, and we know who one of those was. But who's the mysterious other pair? So Jasmien defends their decision, saying that there was another pair that lied, which doesn't make their decision any better in my book.
Yeah, it's like a second grader, but they lied too.
It's classic deflection tactics. And as you said earlier, Philip does say that he didn't want to go for the money, but Samina convinced him.
And Leonard just right away says, I don't believe you, Philip.
So it's now time for the test. 20 questions on the identity and actions of the mole. Whoever knows least goes out of the game, except for the mole who can never go home. Katrine and Jasmien, as we've previously discussed, both have a pasvrage each. Noah says today wasn't a fun day. When he came out of the pot, the mole has done well. Katrine says everything went wrong with the domino game. Everyone messed up. Sven says that the mole doesn't care about pasvrage and just taking money out of the pot. If you stamp on dominoes with your big feet or fat fingers, then you did well today as the mole. Philip says that it was difficult to place dominoes. It was a disaster. He says he went all in at the bunker elimination and was arrogant. That was useful hubris, and he has reconsidered his position. Jasmien says she doesn't know if Philip wants to make himself the mole or not because he's way too flashy. Annelotte says that Sven is competitive when they play ping pong, but not in challenges, and she worries she already has tunnel vision. Samina is convinced that Isidoor is Annelotte's dog in real life, and you can tell that she really knows the dog. And Lennart says Katrine has a steady hand in her job, so should have been the best at dominoes, and wasn't. Gilles tells them that nobody is safe this time, everyone completed the test, and everyone is in danger, apart from the mole, of course. Annelotte, Lennart and Sven get green screens before Noah is out, confirming to us that Jens was not the mole either.
And everyone else is stumped because they said, no one ever really asked anybody for information or questions about positions or backgrounds, so everyone just assumed that Noah was very sure of who the mole was, and he goes home pretty early.
I must admit I was happy Noah went, just because it felt like there would always be that question when Noah was in the season of, is Noah the mole, was Jens the mole? I was obviously 99% sure that Noah wasn't the mole and that Jens wasn't the mole originally, but there's always that doubt, especially with Belgium, where you go, am I being fooled by Gilles da Costa again? So I'm glad we got the answer to that question now. However, from a production standpoint, obviously it's a bad decision because you really want that intrigue to be there as long as possible.
And it's not the first time that the youngest contestant within the cast goes home super early. And actually, well, Demi was also really young. So, yeah, we lost the two youngest contestants in back-to-back episodes.
Yeah. Who's next youngest? Is it Lennart?
Yeah, and I got him as my number one suspect, so...
Lennart's 25, I think we said last week.
Yeah, it jumps up quite a bit from Noah's 18.
So Noah says he was disappointed, obviously. He focused too much on one person. Philip says he was very sure of himself. He didn't ask Samina any questions about herself. And Gilles tells him that he came into the game in the most spectacular way ever. Katrine says that he enjoyed everyone still suspecting him. And carpool karaoke was his highlight. Next time, teams play bubble football in the Olympic Stadium. There is mountain biking and a bomb on the table. Sven asks people to believe him. And Lennart hangs like a clown off a zipline. So, who do you suspect, Mr. Saunders?
Number one, Lennart. Number two, Sven. Number three, Annelotte. And then the two people who I've essentially ruled out at this point are Philip and Samina. Philip's sabotages have just been he's just way too over the top as a suspect for the past couple episodes. I'm like, yeah, it's not Philip.
Yeah, I'm in two minds about Philip because Gilles made a point at the start of the season saying we never cast anyone who is trying to fake mole and trying to pretend they are the mole. And yet it feels like Philip really is trying to do that this season. It feels like a classic misdirection from Gilles. So I don't know what to say about it. He's still in my top three, but my top three is now Lennart, Annelotte, then Philip. And it's purely because I can't get a grasp on Philip. Annelotte was really suspicious for most of this episode, especially if she does end up basically being the trainer for Isidoor and being in control of that challenge potentially when it does crop up eventually. And Lennart was the only one to lose money in the theatre challenge. And I'm pretty sure him and Annelotte cost them money or would have cost them money in the 3D printing challenge as well.
Yeah, they're my top suspects for who picked the pasvrage.
So I feel like those two kind of by default have to be top of the list, especially as she was in the group that lost so much money in the Olympia Park.
Yeah, that's why I have Annelotte and Sven in my top three, especially because Sven's always around when money gets lost. He's not a big earner. And yeah, I just ruled out Philip because he took all the heat for the failure of the trio for the dog challenge. But then I'm thinking, well, Sven and Annelotte were there too, so I even put a special category I've ruled out for Philip for having too much blame put on him for every time a challenge has gone wrong. And then Samina consistently brings in money every single challenge. Katrine, I'm on the verge of ruling out, but then she did take the pasvrage with Jasmien. And Jasmin's just so confrontational competitive that can't tell if she's mulling or not. So that's why she's just in the middle of my list.
So in First Suspicions, as I said earlier, 12 people had Noah as their bottom suspect left, including both me and you. 2 people, me and Jack, had him as number 11 on the initial list, so thank God my bottom suspect is no longer there. Only 1 person, Matt Garasio, had him at number 1. Lennart is still number 1 overall with 2.71 out of 7 on average, 2.75 for us. Philip's now second at 3.91, then Sven on 4, Jasmien and Katrine both on 4.12, Samina on 4.53, and Annelotte on 4.62. Philip, Jasmien, and Samina are now more suspected by me and you than the group as a whole. Sven is dead even on 4, and Lennart, Katrine, and Annelotte are less suspected by the 2 of us than the group. Nearly half of the group has Lennart left as number 1 suspect. The lowest score you could have on the tiebreaker is 28. The current lowest score is 33, scored by 2 people, which is Holgermat and JDO. You are on 38 points, and I'm on 37, and we are both below average because 39 is now the average. In our pool, you lost your second team member in Noah, leaving you with Jasmien, Samina, and Sven. I still have Annelotte, Katrine, Lennart, and Philip, and that is it. Have you got anything else you want to say?
Nope.
Cool. In that case, thank you for listening to our Mol Belgie recap. We'll be back next week to continue the hunt for the brand new mole in Germany. Don't forget you can contact us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, where we are RTV Warriors, or you can email us on contact@rtvwarriors.com. Logan's on Twitter at Logs of Kawaki, and I am MJ Harmstone. Thank you as always to Natalia, and for this week, Jack for the subtitles. We'll see you next week.
Peace out and just chill till the next flavoring.